Welcome back to the Bloom Room. I'm Chantel. Today's video, very relevant, very important on your spiritual path to enlightenment, or to put it more simply, on your road to happiness. The ego is something that, when it's taught to us, it's very vague and just not to the extent, that we really need to understand it. We either learn it in high school before we're really truly self-aware, or we learn it in college where it's, more of a concept and a vocabulary term than something that we really work with. So just a disclaimer, I've mentioned this book about 50,000 times, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. That is going to be where I'm drawing most of my information from in the video. It's about ego and the pain body, which are subconsciously formed inside you energetically by thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and how strongly you feel them. So before I read this book, I had no idea that the ego was the cause of my suffering. I had no idea of the collective ego, and when I read it, it was truly life-changing. I applied it to my life. I was happy, and I have lost touch, so we are relearning. Are you with me? What is the ego really? The ego is who you are. Who you are, not who you really are, not just who you try to be, not just who the world sees you as, because it's who you think you are too. It's, the veil, the mask, who you are in this world, relating from person to person. Our minds can't wrap around the fact that our souls are infinite energy, infinite abundance, and just infinite source. The ego is what contains us, what keeps us, down to earth in a sense. It makes us human. It makes us relatable. It makes us understand the world around us. And it's very purposeful. The ego is formed kind of as a defense mechanism. Your actions, your reactions, all formed subconsciously. You aren't aware of, the person that you are in this lifetime. The ego is formed by, like I said, thoughts and beliefs, emotions, felt strongly. It's also formed by roles: mother, daughter, teacher, doctor. The ego can also be formed by lack of roles, hobo or joker or whatever the fuck. The ego can thrive in any environment that is feeding it. So while the ego is purposeful, it's also very fragile, because it's made up of things that are fleeting. The way we feel is fleeting. It's changing. The way we think is changing every moment, every second. So we feel so solid, right? Everything feels so serious through the ego. The ego is what makes us feel heavy. The ego is what makes us take life serious. The ego is what says, I have to do this, this, and this. The ego is what limits us. But because it's created subconsciously, we aren't aware that it's living through us. We just think, well, I'm crazy. Why did I react like that? Or, something's wrong with me. I'm so suicidal. I'm so depressed. We aren't aware that it's our ego living through us and not our true selves, We aren't aware that the roles that we're fulfilling, the things that we're doing out of fear instead of out of love, the ways that we are subscribing to other people's beliefs to us, it's all forming the ego. And there's a hidden dimension of self that we don't know about, desires that we don't know about or understand, things that just really you don't get yet. We know what the ego is, and now you're gonna say, how the fuck do we eradicate that shit? Bad news bears. We can't eradicate the ego. We can't fight the ego. Doing so will only strengthen the ego. You can't fight fire with fire. But the ego in itself is meant to be dissolved. It's meant to be dissolved through awareness. Awareness is the key of how you get rid of your ego, or transcend it, in better words. It's all through awareness. It's not like you have to fight your ego down and go back and forth and fight hard and strong and put in effort. The realizing is the transcending. Because it's so subconscious and it lives through us in such an unconscious way. Consciousness itself is all that's needed in order to transcend the ego, because all the ego is a mask. There's no need to, come after yourself and fight yourself, because the ego strengthens itself through opposition and resistance. Let's just talk about some of the ways that we feel the ego, but might not know it's the ego. Some of the ways that, we feel depressed through the ego and so forth. Signs of the ego include, victim mindset. The victim mentality of truly in your heart feeling like no one understands me and no one can help me. As true as it may feel and as true as all these things may feel, that's an egoic thought. It's not your true feelings. It's not your true thought. Separation. The ego lives off separation. How can I make myself right and him wrong? Right? How can I make myself better and him smaller? Or how can I make myself smaller and everyone else better? The ego doesn't play favorites, bro. If you're very self-confident, cocky, arrogant versus very low self-esteem and, no self-worth, both are very egoic. Jealousy. You don't like to see others do well. You feel like, where's my turn? You feel like this isn't fair. A major theme of the ego is, take. A major theme is that nothing is ever enough. No amount of consumption, no amount of buying anything, nothing is ever enough for the ego. And that's where consumerism plays a part. Ego is not only within ourselves, but there's a collective ego. If you haven't realized, the world is fucking mad. It's chaos. It's just the fact that the ego in ourselves are strengthening with the collective ego. Law of correspondence, as within, so without, blah, blah, blah. So the collective ego has its structures and its roles as well. The government, rules, our blueprint for life, that's the ego. And it's all just a mind game. Because notice how no matter how much we get, what we want, we're not satisfied, and that's the ego. If you feel like I'm never going to be happy, nothing's ever going to be enough for me, nothing's ever going to be able to keep me happy, that's the ego, baby girl. And it's false. It feels so real, but it's so false, I promise. Another sign of the ego, you compare yourself to everyone compulsively. Social media sucks ass. I haven't been able to be on social media because the constant comparing myself and how heavy and serious that is. The ego likes to compare itself. I'm better than her and I'm worse than her. Like I said, it goes both ways. So if you feel like that, that's the ego in you. The ego likes to blame other people. The ego likes to be right always. It's hard to really sit down and face ourselves, and sometimes face the fact that we're the toxic one, face the fact that we're the one who's creating or attracting the problems, the situations that we're attracting. And the ego will do whatever it can to keep you blind, That's also a huge theme of the ego. The ego will do whatever it can to keep you unconscious, to keep living through you, unbeknownst to you. And so blaming others just forms opposition that literally feeds the ego. The ego can't be wrong. The ego knows all. It knows what's best. If you feel like you're constantly stuck in the past, you can't stop thinking about the past or the future. Just compulsive thoughts. If you just feel like, I can't get out of my head, I can't stop thinking about my situation, how bad it is, I can't stop thinking about what just happened, I can't stop thinking about what I have to do, is the ego creating worry, creating stress and anxiety, because truly there is none. There's no stress for you in this moment, but in the past and in the present, it's creating space to physically invite negativity in your life. Another sign of the ego, like I said, everything feels serious, We all know that life is a game, but the ego makes us feel like it's just so pointless. When everything feels fake, that's another huge sign of the ego, when you're just so fed up with the fucking fakeness of it all. That is your ego being illuminated. That is the collective ego of the universe being illuminated. You're not going crazy. You are waking up. Legit. Life is light, and although it can be really depressing and shit, the nature of reality before we became self-aware when we were kids and stuff, everything was light, everything was fun, and that's what we all crave to go back to, right? So the ego is what makes everything feel heavy and serious, permanent, and impossible, and all of that. Another sign of the ego is a strong need to be in control. Why is this happening to me? Why can't this just happen how I want it to? Why can't she be how I want her to be? This strong need to be in control of your life, of people in your life, that also can be seen as resistance. The ego feeds on resistance to what is. The ego hates the present moment. That's why it's always taking you to the past or taking you to the future. It'll do whatever it can to keep you from being here now. And that's the way that you escape the ego, is being here now. So it knows, it knows that its end is coming. Remember that the ego is illusion. It's not only is it not who you really are, it's something that your consciousness created, or your unconsciousness, should I say. Like I said, we're creating in every moment, whether we're conscious of it or not. Those moments when we're not conscious of it, when we're thinking negative, when we're thinking lowly of ourselves, those are the moments when we're creating unconsciously. So once you recognize illusion for illusion, it will dissolve by itself. Once you recognize a clown for a clown, you don't look at them the same. So as your ego is strengthening, you will see the ego in everyone else. When you see the ego in your mom and your brother and your boyfriend, and now that you know how the ego plays out, it's still not going to be easy. You're going to have to deal with the fact, like, this person is acting out in ways that their childhood and their traumas have formed them to, and they're not aware of it, but it still hurts. You know what I mean? So practice loving unconditionally. So all egos, the egoic structures of the world and ourselves, they are dissolving. They are strengthening to be dissolved. They are destined to be dissolved. But they are the catalyst in our awakening, which is why they exist. When we go and try to search and find ourselves, we never do, because it's the ego that's searching for something that's not there, right? Our true selves are here now. What is to be found? Stop searching and just be found, right? So all the egoic structures, government, rules, just look at the world around you. Watch the news any day and you'll see the world is crumbling. Didn't work. It wasn't a solid foundation. So as you can see, everything's crumbling. The world is falling apart seemingly. You are falling apart seemingly. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't want to be alive. All these feelings are of the ego, which is why I'm ultimately trying to get back to body consciousness, my favorite thing on earth. Fuck thoughts. I love to breathe. I love to be in my body. And lately, that's all a bitch can do. So I understand this video is long, but it was also a long time coming. In general, in the history of humanity, when our species is threatened with a crisis, we are forced to either evolve or die. We forced to either glow up or, fight or flight. And the crisis that we're facing right now is truly the dysfunction of the mind. Things are going haywire. All these fucking words I'm using, but honestly, that's the crisis we're facing, right? So we have the choice. Our species are either gonna go extinct or we're gonna evolve, you know what I mean? A bird wasn't always a bird. That species evolved to grow wings. So as a species, we either let our limitations, our ego, our, negative thoughts about life, about ourselves, our thoughts in general, we let them trap us in. We either let them limit us and feel those limitations and be truly limited by the illusion, or we rise above the limitation, we rise above the illusion, we become aware, and we grow our wings. We bloom. We have two choices here. I'm not saying it's an easy choice. I'm not saying that everyone is going to easily, subscribe and be like, yeah, this is my ego my whole time. But if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. When your world feels like it's falling apart, it's really the self that you believe is real. The ego, makes us think we got it all figured out. And once we become aware that this is all fake, this is all, an illusion, it can be very depressing. It can be very devastating. Still not going to be easy, but the recognizing is the dissolving, like I said. So I talked a lot. Yikes. But thank you so much for watching. I hope it resonates with you guys. More videos to come. 7 universal laws. the second universal law of correspondence is to come as well. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being patient with me, and I love you guys. So